Are we on? We're on. Hello, beautiful people, and welcome to my channel. This is great. I am so happy to have the opportunity to interact with everybody. Thank you so much. Please feel free to comment in the chat. I'd love to have interactions with you, ask questions, share any beliefs or experiences, and yes, thank you so much. So, if you're new here and you're not watching this as a live, but this is a replay, my name is Jennifer Diamond, and I live a whole food, plant-based, sos-free, gluten-free lifestyle. And the question that I wanted to kind of talk about is why? Why do people choose to eat a certain way? And for me, I am whole food plant-based, right? Whole food plant exclusive. And so that's kind of where I want to start the conversation. I just want to take a minute and say hi to Lori G. Oh, it's so nice to have you here. Hello, Natalie Dixon. And Jim, thank you guys for tuning in. It's great to see you here. And we're just going to start by talking about our why and, why people choose to adapt a whole food, plant-based lifestyle. Some people consider it a vegan. There is a difference between whole food, plant-based, and vegan. But no matter where you are, right? Maybe your belief is keto or the standard American diet is where you are and you don't really know much about it. There's always a benefit to understanding why someone chooses to eat a certain way and what does that mean and how can they be successful. Hi, Jill. So good to see you there. Tinkerbev, good to see you as well. I'm so happy, and I had mentioned earlier, I'm going to say it again, please feel free to comment, bring your input, bring your questions. I would love to interact with you today in this moment. And so I'm just going to, oh, hey, hi, Mona. I'm just going to take a minute and talk about, if you see me look down, it's because I'm making sure that some topics that I want to cover, I cover. I got a little cheat sheet back here. So that's why I might be looking down. But, in case you have no idea what whole food plant-based is, I thought we would just start right there. And whole food plant exclusive or whole food plant-based is eating foods that are naturally grown just the way they are, as close to the natural way that they are, right? So that would be fruits, all fruits, vegetables, legumes, lentils, beans, peas. It would be all vegetables, potatoes, grains, all of that kind of stuff. And that using those foods to create a beautiful array of magnificent food that I believe we were meant to ingest for well-being. Hello, Nan. Good to see you here. Hi, Kenneth. Nice to see you here. Hello, Marilyn. Hi, Estelle. Okay, that's all good. She said, I'm new at plant-based, and that's great. Thank you so much for being here and being open to chatting with us. And so I just started to talk about what whole food plant-based is. And when I say that I'm also sos-free and gluten-free, well, that's even a step beyond. But just to let you know that salt, oil, flour, alcohol, sugar-free, and gluten-free. And you know what? I have a ton of food that I can eat. So here's the question, and I would love to hear anyone's interactions, anyone's thoughts on it, but why would you want to eat this way? And people that are unfamiliar with it sometimes have asked me that. Why would you want to eat that way? Sometimes they look at it as being very restrictive or like poor you or poor me. And it's not that at all. But if anyone has any input as to why you would want to eat a whole food plant-based diet, I would love to hear that. And while you're thinking about that, I'll tell you that for me, there are a lot of different reasons. One is because I feel like we have a choice. And the choice is to live our best life through the foods that act- actually make our cells and create our body, like these foods here that I have. This is hummus made out of garbanzo beans and vegetables and fruit, just to give you an idea. And when we eat the standard American diet, and I just got to say, my little guys here, they're supposed to represent farm animals, but I didn't really have any stuffed animal farm animals. So that's what they're representing. And, when we eat animals, and we eat processed foods and we eat sugars and flours and salt and all of that stuff, we tend to also have pharmaceuticals, health issues, problems with all kinds of high blood pressure, uh, diabetes, heart disease, and they kind of go hand in hand. And that is considered the standard American diet. Plants are not. And so why would I want to eat this way? Because I've experienced eating this way, and I've experienced ingesting these synthetics that are not meant to cure. They are meant to they're meant to just kind of cover up, or just kind of um, suppress what's going on, maybe make you feel more comfortable, but they're not the cure. And for me, I want to find out what is my body saying, and why is it saying that, and how can I get back on track to live my best, strongest life, because life is so precious, if you ask me. I just want to take a minute and look in the comments. Okay, so hi, Lisa. And she said, for my health. Yes, for your health. Jill Caperton said, for better health. Marilyn said, to live healthier longer. That's an excellent one. Mona, to stay off medications I used to have to take for my blood pressure, GERD, and cholesterol, not to mention getting off the weight. Yes. Standard American diet, that's another huge thing, is weight. And Nan says health for the animals, the environment, no chemicals. Lori G says, I'm 58 and I want to feel good and be healthy. And Estelle says, what is the best oil to put in the pan when making eggs on a stainless steel pan? And I'm going to get to that question in just a little bit, because that is an excellent question. So these are my farm animals. Thank you, everyone, for tuning in and sharing your thoughts, your questions, and what is your why? This globe, it's actually a puzzle that I put together because I'm a puzzle person, and it spins. But it is, in our conversation today, representing the environment. And so I just wanted you to know. And of course, we touched on this already. Pharmaceutical, Western medicine, SAD. So you know. And when I say SAD, that's just an acronym, again, for a standard American diet. And so health was why I switched, says Lisa O. But the animals and environment keep me eating this way. Yeah. So, that's one thing, is some people don't understand it because they don't have the knowledge, right? And that's my purpose for sharing, is to allow people to have the knowledge, understanding what actually is happening in factory farms and to these animals, the cruelty that goes on, the suffering, because we aren't exposed to it the way that we're exposed to going apple picking or cherry picking. I remember as a kid doing that with my grandparents, but no one ever took me to a factory farm to see how my milk, cheese, or meat got to my table. And it's quite an eye-opening experience, at least it was for me. And so, hi, Karen. Let's see, I just want to make sure that I'm hitting everything. Okay. And so, so that's why I would want to. Now, here's a deeper question: knowing your why. And what does that mean? Knowing your why. It's It okay, so it took me a long time. I really didn't understand people saying, "What's your why? What's your why?" I also have heard, uh, "You need to know the why that makes you cry." What does that mean? For me, I was very puzzled for a long time, and I'll just say, I just want to look behind me for a minute. Some people might think a why is getting in a smaller dress and losing 10 pounds by the end of the week. Well, yes, that's a why, but that honestly is not sustainable. Or cutting calories on the standard American diet. That's not sustainable either. And so you have to think about and look at things in a different way. And I think that the biggest thing that I learned about figuring out my why is the emotional component, because there's an emotional component that you have to tune into to understand why a person does what they do. And some people, they might be okay being on pharmaceuticals or being, not being able to do things that they did when they were younger, not get on the ground and play with their grandchildren or hike or whatever it is that brings them joy. Having knee replacements, having extra weight, having all of these things that come with it besides pharmaceuticals. I'm just going to put the dress down for a minute. And so, does anybody, I would just love to ask if anybody has experienced connecting to their why through emotion, an emotional reason. And if you are new and you don't even know what I'm talking about, that's okay. I would love for some people that might be aware to share how they experienced it or if they understand it, and maybe that will help spread the word. I'm going to look in the chat here for a minute. Okay, so we're all good. So so while they're thinking about that, I just want to say there are top motivations behind embracing it. And I wrote a few, which we already talked about, right? So that would be getting in the dress. But these aren't necessarily, in my opinion, the right motivations. But I want to give you some examples. So getting in the dress, having somebody else, like your partner or your doctor, tell you you need to do this for your best interest. Environmental concerns, right? Being concerned about the environment, ethical beliefs, and to improve your health, which some people mentioned about improving their health, and that is a start. But I don't believe it alone is the reason that somebody can long-term be successful in figuring out how to be successful here and why to choose this way of living. And so there are, I want to take a minute while you might be wanting to put something in the chat to just go back for a moment. It's going to be off topic for a minute, but I wanted to answer that question about the oil. What is the best oil to put in the fry pan when making eggs on a stainless steel pan? Now, I think that that's a great question because a lot of people think, and this is just going off topic for a minute because I want to answer somebody's question. And this is my opinion based on research that I've learned that I believe is true, that oil is not beneficial for good health. Where does it come from, right? If it's olive oil, it comes from the olive, right? So I'll use that as an example. The best pressed olive oil there is processed, and everything in it is taken out. And it's just empty calories. It causes inflammation and it keeps weight on people, and it can cause problems with cholesterol and other medical reasons. And so I would ask you to try eating the olive in its whole form instead of olive oil. Now, somebody might say, well, it tastes so good and I love it and I put it on my salad and it's so great. Well, is that something that you just have been taught? Have you dove in to figure that out? I'm not sure. But I know that I have never seen heard or myself experienced having a craving or wanting a shot of oil of any kind. And that's because there is nothing beneficial to olive oil or any oil, in my opinion. In my opinion. And so as far as cooking eggs on a stainless steel pan, well, in the whole food plant-based world, I don't personally eat eggs, anything that comes from animals. And so I would say that using a stainless steel pan and cooking something that, if you want, that would be like an egg substitute, such as tofu, which I have amazing recipes, and there are so many online that you can season up and flavor that will give you so many benefits, is a better choice for me. And I might not cook it on a stainless steel pan. I might cook it on a pan like a green pan, or a pan that is a non-stick, or putting it on parchment paper and baking it. So I just wanted to mention that really quickly. And so, are there any questions in the chat? I don't know.
There are not any questions yet.
Okay, so going back to our why, and understanding your why. Why, for some of you that asked the question, why do you want to find a healthy way of living? And for the person that asked about the oil, why do you want to find a healthier oil? So two separate questions, but they're both why questions, and hopefully somebody can respond to that. Now, I want to tell you, I had, like I said earlier, I had a really hard time figuring out my why. Why would I want to eat this way? Well, first of all, it's not easy. I go outside, and everywhere I go, there's all the food that I am not wanting to follow by eating a whole food plant-based diet. And so that is not having community and support in being successful. And it makes it harder, right? So you have fast food drive-throughs, you have billboards that advertise, you have a lot of mixed messages. Is it keto? Is it this? Is it that? And so when you dig deep to realize what is it about you personally that you want better health, and how are you going to get that way, I think that's where you dig in and you start to ask yourself the why question. And I am going to share my personal why, which is very emotional for me. And it was something that I did, actually, I had to write it down. I wrote it out, and I actually had my husband help me to continue to push my answers. And you could do this too if you wanted to. So here's the question. Oh, before I get in there, I just see this okay, can you elaborate on the possible correlation between food and anxiety? Is there any scientific evidence to support this connection, says Natalie Dixon. And I believe that there is. I do believe that there is, because of certain foods that are meant to give us a hit, a dopamine hit, can make us anxious, can cause anxiety. And I don't have any studies that I could share right off the top of my head, but I do believe it to be true, that there can be a cause. And the reason that I say that is from my own personal experience, because there was a time when I was dealing with anxiety and all kinds of stuff, depression, and I never realized the connection between food and those things until I got to a place where I am now, and I don't have those same problems. What I'm going to say is, food is not going to heal every single thing, but it certainly makes life a lot easier, and it can really bring down the effects for some people. And it also depends on if you're dealing with some kind of diagnosis or not. But if you're going to see a Western medicine doctor, I always question them when they start to give nutritional advice, as I'd like to know about their nutrition background. And most of the time, it's their opinion. And so while I believe in Western medicine, I don't always think that that's where I want to get my information for food and how it affects. So what's your why and how did you find it? And so going back for a minute to mine, and I just want to say hi, Judy, thank you, and Carlene. Yes, and I see that Marilyn wants to get off her medications, and that can happen. So I've got it written down here. What I did was I wrote down, what is my why? Why do I want to be on whole food plant-based? And now that I've been doing it, why do I want to stay doing it? And I'm going to share this with you. So I wrote, to help others, right? Because I had already realized the benefits of it. So I want to eat this way because I want to help others and spread the word. Well, that's great, but there's no real emotional connection to that. So I need to then ask myself, why do I want to help others? And I need to think about that. And so I did. And I wrote, to let people know that there's another way, that they don't need to suffer. So right now, I'm talking about the why coming from they, them, others. But that for me is not sustainable either. Just like losing 10 pounds by Friday is not sustainable long term. I haven't made the connection with myself emotionally, even though I have good intentions and I want to help others. So going back and forth a lot at this point with my husband and just kind of thinking about it and talking about it and questioning that why again. Why? Why do I want to help others that are suffering? I mean, who cares, right? And I don't mean that in a negative way that it might be coming across, but if I'm focusing on myself and I want to make sure that I'm sustainable and I understand why I'm doing this to help others later down the line, it still has to be the other's choice, right? So that can't be my focus. And that's why I say I don't care, because honestly, I do really care. And so I just want to say hi to Janet from Plant Powered Peddler. Yes, thank you so much, Natalie. And so I took and I'll say it again, to let people know there's another way and that they don't need to suffer. And I took that and I had to figure out, what does that mean to me? And it was really hard to do. And it seems like every time I read this or really think about it, I get emotional because I have been able to connect with the emotion. And my next answer to my own question was, and this is only my own feeling about it, this is just my own experience. So there's no right, wrong, or indifferent, but it's just my truth. And I'm being vulnerable to share it with you in hopes to help you figure out what your why is if you're trying to figure it out or go deeper into it. And it would be because I feel like I've been lied to by society about the impact of food and my health. And I believe that to be true from my experience. And then I have to ask myself, why do I believe that society would want to do that to me? And so I'm going to continue on by saying, well, because for me, I believe the truth could have had a large impact on my health and my happiness. Now, what does that mean? The truth could have had a large impact. I believe that I was lied to by society because I watched all the commercials and I wanted to be like all the Brady Bunch and the 1950s and all the things that we were raised on in my era, in what my experience was. and thinking milk does a body good, and you can't have one Lay's potato chip and all of that. I had issues with inflammation and allergies from a very young age. I would guess I can remember as far back as probably age 4. I have suffered severely with inflammation that I didn't know that's what it was. I thought allergies. Everybody has allergies, right? What do? You take an allergy shot. You get allergy tested. And some allergies you can't help, but what I have learned is by lowering the inflammation, they either are very minimal in the experience or they go away, or a lot of other things can happen, including my autoimmune disease, and I've had a lot of tumors and growths and just really hard things that maybe if I was told about a whole food plant-based diet and not told about Fresca or Diet Coke or whatever, fat-free dressings, maybe my life would have been different in that experience. Maybe I wouldn't have had allergy shots most of my life. Maybe I wouldn't have had growths. Even if I did have them, maybe they would have been much lower in the experience and in the outcome, And so the truth could have had a large impact on my health and my happiness. And why? Well, knowing the truth, I believe, could have changed the direction of my life and could have allowed me to experience things in a greater way. I sometimes wouldn't travel during certain seasons because I was concerned about the pollen outside, or I wouldn't be able to go walking with a friend that invited me in the forest to a hike when I was visiting them because I knew it was going to be a trigger. And I at one point learned that I had an allergy to a fungus, a mold in the air that we breathe, a particle you can't even see. And when I asked my Western medicine diet, what can I do? He said, you could live under the water, which is not really something that I could do. And so how would things have been different for me? So I take the knowing the truth could have changed my life and ask myself one more time, why? Why could have knowing the truth about food and the impact on my health and what society, I believe, did not share with me, how could that have changed my life? And what I believe is my why from that is that I think it could have changed the quality of my life. And so my why is better quality of life. And I'm so grateful that I stumbled upon this, whether it was a stumble or not. I did a lot of research on it, but my quality of my life has gone from bedridden with constant surgeries, brain surgeries, tumors all over my body, breast, nodules on my throat, tumors on my hands, all kinds of things, to, having all that inflammation go down. My thyroid has corrected itself. I've lost weight and kept it off, and I eat as much as I want. So I want to hear from you guys. I would love to hear, do you know what your why is? Have you pushed it? Have you questioned it? And how can having deeper understanding of your why continue to help you? Because if I look at something and I think, well, I did good all day, I would like to reward myself with ice cream, or coffee, or something chocolatey, I have to go back to the why, because the why and the emotional connection is the strongest part. The other stuff is not, I believe, truthful. It's not sustainable. Counting calories, restricting the food that is not helping me. It's all not helped. It has not helped me. It is not beneficial for me. And I know to be a fact because I tried it. I've tried it. And I bet a lot of you have tried it too, right? Weight Watchers. And I'm not trying to point fingers at any kind of, business or anything, but I just happen to know that one because I know my family has experienced that. And there was, a weigh-in, and there's a lot of pressure to succeed. And it's meant for you not to succeed. I have never met anyone that's done, and I'm going to use Weight Watchers as an example, that has done something like that and been sustainable and had the progress and the outcomes that they wanted indefinitely without needing to go back and start over. Because why? Because they gained the weight. They started having problems. Maybe they were diagnosed with cancer. They put on a bunch of weight. They became anxious or depressed or all of those things. And so not that, it's up to you to decide what works for you. It's up to you to decide how much you want to bring in, right? Some people jump in, want all in. And some people dip their toe and they just start to bring in more foods. But there is something that goes on in our brain. And there is something to be said for neuroadapting to the tastes on our tongue. And that's why some people, when they're used to eating high salt burgers or whatever, French fries, oil and all of that, and they try to eat a salad or eat a fruit or a vegetable or a bean or a potato that's just plain, they think it tastes awful. And it's supposed to taste awful because the stuff that you're eating that you probably don't even know those French fries have sugar, oil, and salt. Yes, sugar. Or condiments that we've been raised on have those things in them. Or high fructose corn syrup or other additives to make the product cheaper to make, but they're not really meant to help us. And so it takes time and commitment to make that change. And if you give your body the time to change the taste buds, to relax the brain from being so active, over time, you can see, wow, actually, I've never tasted a piece of corn that tasted so good. Or I've never had celery and realized that it's salty flavored or whatever. And yes, those things can really happen. But to be sustainable and to be able to move towards that direction, if that's something that you want to do, for me, I want my last 10 or 20 or whatever years to be the same as they are now. I want to be able to jump. I want to be able to run. I want to be able to garden. I don't want to be using a walker. I don't want to have, issues with things that I think can be avoidable through whole food plant-based. And so by knowing my why and going back to that and really sitting with it, I believe it can be a big part of helping a person stay on track and be successful. And there are other components, right? Community and having a plan and all those other things. But so I'm going to check in the chat, and I appreciate you allowing me to be vulnerable, to share how I got my why and what my why is. So yes. Thank you, Carlene. That's awesome. She said, and Nan says greed. Yep, it is greed. And then Lisa O, my why is a deep-seated fear of doctors and hospitals and doing everything in my power to avoid them. Wow. Yeah. And so why do you have deep-seated fear? I would ask you that. Carlene says, I think those programs are designed to fail to get repeated business. And I bet you're talking about the Weight Watchers. And I know I talk about that one, but that's an example. There are tons of them right there that I don't even know because I've never got involved in them. But yes, you're absolutely right. I agree with you at any rate. Natalie Dixon said, I love raw corn and raw mini peppers. Yay, that's wonderful. I do too. Here's some, and here's some hummus you could dip it in if you wanted to. That's wonderful. I'm glad to hear that you're enjoying real food. Lori G says, I watched my mom struggle with her diet my whole life. Finally, she had a belt put around her stomach. Yeah, and her gallbladder removed. Her health declined in the years after, and she died of duodenum cancer. I am so sorry that your mom went through that, and I'm sorry that you and other family members had to watch that. It's can be very devastating. And doesn't that seem really like radical? You know, people are desperate that they want to put a belt or they want to do what they can to lose the weight to improve themselves instead of just trying this, you know? But do they know that that's an option? And do they understand what their why is? And are they committed and driven? Because, like I said earlier, we can't do it for somebody else. We can't do it because the doctor said, the spouse said, the neighbor said, and we can't not do it because our friends are going to restaurants and eating stuff that's not working for us anymore. So I appreciate you sharing that, Lori G, and I'm really sorry to hear that. And hopefully for you, that has helped you figure out your why, and hopefully you're making wonderful decisions for yourself. I also believe that genetics is not inevitable. And it's not just my opinion. These are not just my opinions. I've listened to enough whole food plant-based doctors and have seen and heard and read the studies and the science behind it. So okay. Estelle Jacobs, could you recommend a great book for a complete, what does that say?
Sample meals and snacks.
Sample meals and snacks. Well, yes, there are so many. Let's see, a great book for meals and snacks. Well, there's, depending on what your goal is, right? There's Prevent and Reverse Heart Disease that has all kinds of information, and in the back that they have recipes. I really like Rip Esselstyn's The 7-Day Rescue book. And I like it because it has some things written out with options about how to build meals that are simple. It breaks it down into categories, and so that might be one. There are so many. I will link a few in the description that you will find after this, and thank you for your question. But I do want to say there are just things that a lot of free things on the internet. And on my channel, I hope it would be helpful to make things that are simple. And when you're in the produce department or you're in the beans and potatoes and all those places, taking that and kind of just taking one thing from each category and building on it. So, rice and your steamed broccoli and your colorful rainbow salad and some black beans and maybe a corn tortilla that doesn't have anything but corn and water. Sometimes they do have salt a little bit, and then having a big dessert of this entire half of a watermelon, right? And so that's your simple meal. And then maybe the only thing you would want to really look at are some salad, or some dressings or sauces. So I hope that's helpful. Oh, yes. Jill Caperton says, McDougall, that's an excellent book, The Starch Solution. Dr. John McDougall has a ton of books. I actually have one of them in the other room. The Starch Solution, I will link that in the description below. And they also there's a whole course from the McDougalls with Mary's Minis, which she, I tried it. It didn't really work for me, but it works for so many people and she goes in and has you pick one starch and do things in a different way, but it's all the same food. And I do want to take a moment because Jill brought up Dr. McDougall. Dr. John McDougall recently passed away, and in the whole food plant-based world, there's been just a lot of learning about what a magnificent man he was and how much he did for people. And I just want to honor him just for a quick moment, because he got brought up, and just say thank you to all that he offered, and just give one minute of silence for Dr. McDougall. Yeah, and if you're unfamiliar with him, please check him out. He was amazing, and his legacy is still going on. Anyways, let me see what else there is. Mona says, my friend's husband was just diagnosed with type 2 diabetes. Oh, I sent her some info from Cyrus Kambata. I always mess up his name. Did I say it wrong? And she said he read the information and said, I can have potatoes. Yes. And Cyrus is amazing. He does Mastering Diabetes. And that's wonderful. Yes. Potatoes. Oh my gosh. There's such a stigma behind potatoes. And people think carbs are bad. It's not true. Carbs give us energy and fuel so that we can go and lift weights and carry baskets and reach up above when we want to put our luggage on an airplane and all of those things. But it's what we put on them that's the problem, right? The sour cream and the butter and all of that stuff. So yes. Okay. Estelle Jacobs says she loves Simple. And yes, Simple, I just want to touch on that for a minute. If you have a Trader Joe's in your area, maybe other grocery stores, they sell rice in the freezer section that I just love. It's microwavable. It's only organic rice. There's a brown rice. There's a white rice. It comes 3 in a pack. I love sometimes when we're running late or, we need something quick, I take that. If you use the microwave, I know some people don't, but we have done this before. You microwave it for 3 minutes. You go and you get a bag of vegetables, any kind of frozen mixed vegetables that you want. You put it in and you saute it or cook it up however you want to. You can even steam it or microwave it if that's your thing. Put it on top of your rice, right? And then open a can of beans or lentils or legumes, or do edamame or peas and carrots. Throw that on there and look at gigantic, beautiful meal. And then maybe you just want to get some sauces, which can be made out of cashews or beans itself. And that's a wonderful, easy meal. And you can even use baked potatoes, cook a bunch of baked potatoes, and then have them throughout the week to put all that kind of stuff on and build a potato bar or a taco bar. And so let's see, Judy Blitzstein, how about dummies for plant-based eating? I find it really hard to start and get my family to eat with me. Okay, so I'm not familiar with that particular book, but what I would say is going back to our why, and I can't get my family to do what I want. And there was a time when I wanted it so bad because I knew what I knew. But the truth is, like we said earlier, everybody has to do it for their own reason. And that's why if my doctor or my mom or anybody says to me, you need to do this because you need to get X under control, whatever X is, it's not going to work. They need to figure it out on their own. So what I would say to you is work on yourself. And what you do without saying anything plants a seed. And it is something that they're going to notice and possibly want to taste. And eventually, maybe on their own, make the decision based on your example without even saying anything. Just by doing what is best for you. And I know that's hard, right? Because we want our families to be healthy and we want to take care of them and be safe and all of those things. But it's just not going to work that way. So, sorry. Let's see. Mona says, the doctor told him he couldn't. Oh, and it upset him so much. Oh, that he couldn't be eating potatoes. I'm guessing that's what you're saying. And so, yes, again, for him to have the knowledge to question the doctor, not to be derogatory, not to be confrontational, but just honestly say, like, are you basing this on some kind of evidence that you're telling me? Can you please explain to me why you're doing that? Or maybe giving them the starch solution and saying, I read this book and it talks about all the reasons that eating potatoes are helpful. I would like to offer or gift you this book. Would you be willing to read it? Can we have a conversation about it at another time? Or can you send me an email? And I know in the Western medicine world, you don't usually have that kind of time, right? They want you in and out, 10 minutes, 15 minutes per person. So they don't really get to know you. But planting the seed, making it available, and questioning it, also getting another opinion. It's okay to go to that doctor and have them monitor you and take care of you. But it's also okay to bring that information to a whole food plant-based doctor and have a second opinion from somebody in a different perspective with different training to make a whole beautiful team, which is what I did. And I couldn't be more thankful. I went to True North, which is a water fasting place. There were medical doctors trained in nutrition and water fasting that helped me just catapult what I was already doing. I was on the right track, but I needed extra support. And there's a lot of whole food plant-based doctors out there to check into. And yes, Nan, be the example. Yes, be the example. Carlene, my family doesn't eat whole food plant-based like me, but they made some smaller improvements and eat more plants since I started. And that's a win for me. That's a win for me to hear. That's fantastic. That is what I'm talking about. So Judy, I hope that you hear what Carlene said and maybe just take it for what it's worth, that it can happen. It's just over time. And eating whole food plant exclusive or whole food plant based, it is going against the grain. And it is taking up more energy, right? It's more energy to go against the grain. If somebody says there's a fire, everybody run. A lot of people would run before checking to see if there really was a fire, right? So it's easy to believe the majority and not question it. It's certainly simpler in terms of energy conserving. So I'd like to ask everyone, if anyone, can you put that back? I would just like to ask everyone what your biggest challenge is. And is your why strong enough to push through that challenge? You take a minute and think about that. And even if you don't know the answer, whatever your immediate thought is in this moment, I would love it if you would be kind enough to share that so we could talk about it a little bit. And you could also take it after this, this live, and continue to question it and unfold it. If you don't feel like you have the true full answer, it takes time. And it can also be very profound in learning about yourself. And so I would really like you to do that. And while we're waiting for that, Carlene, I just also want to say again, congratulations on doing what works for you. Yes. Oh, so Jill said cooking for one with a small refrigerator. Cooking for one with a small refrigerator? I'm not sure.
Is probably her biggest challenge.
Oh, yes. Okay. Thank you for the clarification. Sorry, Jill.
Just a guess.
Okay. I'm going to go with that. It makes sense. So I hear you. Your biggest challenge is cooking for one with a small refrigerator. I'm just going to share something with you. We have a beautiful refrigerator. It's a few years old only, and it does not work properly. And we have not replaced it. And it's a long story, but I find that I cannot fill it the way I should be able to because the food goes bad. And so I kind of feel like I have a small refrigerator. And so what I find is that when I batch cook or when I am making something that takes a lot of effort or more effort, like a lentil taco or a chili or a stew or a soup, I try to double or triple the recipe, or even potatoes. And then I put it in smaller portions and freeze it so that I'm still cooking for one, or, because sometimes I am just cooking for me. Todd is doing a better job. I want to say better. He's eating more, like I would hope him to for health. But it's not all the time. And sometimes he doesn't like leftovers, and all the kids are gone. We don't have, we're empty nesters, so we don't have them living here. And so what I find is that I could still cook bigger portions, and I just freeze it, and then it's kind of like a frozen meal ready to go. And the other part of that question, let's see where that was. Hold on, I want to go back. Oh, no, go back. Yeah. Oh, okay. Yeah. Cooking for one with small refrigerator. Okay. So I did answer that. And then Lori G says, keeping a clean environment. Wow. Okay. So I'm not sure that everyone knows what that means, but I certainly do. And we'll touch on that. She said, my daughter and husband will bring home chips and ice cream, but my why is strong. So I eat, quote unquote, my food. Yeah. So a clean environment. It's always easier to have a clean environment. And what does that mean? That means everybody's eating the whole food way. And you don't have any of those trigger foods, the things that you're trying to avoid. Because we all know that sometimes when we're tired or we haven't planned or things come up, we think it's unfair because we have to cook or we have to figure it out. We can't go through the drive-through, and other people in our family seem to be perfectly fine, and they bring that food in. That makes our environment not considered clean. So but knowing her why, she's able to stick with her food because she knows her why. I'm super proud of you. I'm sending you a hug of strength and support. Because I know it's not always easy. And I will share that in our household, that used to be the case. And it's still the case, right? So my husband, thank goodness, stopped eating dairy ice cream, but he has switched to a plant-based ice cream, which is super for him. I am excited. That's progression. But for me, that's not good. So my environment is not clean either. And I try to have conversations. We have conversations about, this is really hard. I need your support. And what does that mean? Well, can you eat it before you come home? Can you put it in a different, we have a couple different freezers. Can you put it in a different refrigerator? Can you put it in a different pantry? Because we have 2 pantries. Some people lock it up. They get a container at the Dollar Tree or the dollar store, those plastic Rubbermaid containers, drill some holes in there and literally take a padlock, and they have their family or whoever is buying the potato chips or whatever it is and lock it in there so they can't get in it. So those are things that you can do. And I am so happy for you about you being strong enough to eat your food. And Estelle says, yes, I was diagnosed with, oops, can you move that? Lymphedema last month, which I am not super familiar with, but I think that has to do, with a lot of water or, well, maybe you can share what that is. Yes. Okay. Hold on a second. It looks like he was going to look that up. I was diagnosed with lymphedema last month and told me to change my diet to plant-based. Yay! A medical doctor in the Western medicine world told you to eat plants? Ooh, ooh, ooh. That is fantastic. I am thrilled to hear that. And I guess I'm assuming, was it a Western medicine diet? You'll have to tell me. But if it was, good for them. And I wonder, I would ask them, I would ask them questions about how they heard about that, and have they taken any courses, and why they're recommending that, and why did they recommend it after your diagnosis? Why don't they push it for, people beforehand, right? And that wouldn't be at a specialist, depending on who you went to, but the general doctors, I think that's the way. And I believe that is a direction that we are going. I've heard from a couple of my own personal doctors that, the plants and the whole foods are coming into play. And so I'm happy for you to have been fortunate enough to talk to someone who actually gave reasonable and superior advice. But I am sorry to hear about your diagnosis. It's always hard when we get a diagnosis. And a lot of times that's what it takes for people to make the change, because we get used to what we eat and what we do. And we're used to our experiences, and we tie memories and experiences to foods that we've had in our childhood, and our grandma, and the apple pie, and the holidays, and all that stuff. But what you have to realize is the food isn't what made the memory. It's the people. It's the people. So, and you can make pies and all that stuff, whole food, plant-based. I've done it. So let's see. I'm just looking. Natalie says, share the name. I don't know what they're talking about. Please share the name of the plant-based ice cream. Oh, is it Jen approved? Okay, so I'll tell you, and it looks like he wrote it below. It's not something that I would eat. It is a great step in the direction, and but it's got, what does it have in it that besides, Todd, what does it have in it? Do you want to grab it? Do you have it here? He's going to grab it, and we're going to read the label together. But what I would do is make nice cream. Yes, NICE, nice cream. And I've done it with sweet potatoes, with bananas, with fresh fruit, with dates, with vanilla bean powder and plant-based milk. And it's delicious, and it doesn't harm. And you can have it for breakfast even. So do you want to read that from there, or you want to come in? Or you want me to do it? Okay, so this is Todd's ice cream. This is not approved by me for myself, but it's an improvement for him. And he likes it because it's cashew milk, so it's not dairy. And so it's got cashew milk, but it's filtered water with cashews. And then, Todd, it's got cane sugar.
Yes, I know.
It's got coconut oil, tapioca syrup, roasted cashews with vegetable oil. Oh my gosh, it's worse than I
infinitely
thought.
better than other major name brands.
Like McDonald's shakes.
Yes, probably much
That was
better
something
than
that he was doing. And it's got a long list. Another thing that I would suggest looking at is the ingredients list, right? If it's super long, for me, it's get it out of there, unless it just says organic and lists a bunch of vegetables because it's a soup or something. But things like this, would not be for me at all. But, and then it just depends on where you are. Here, I would not like this on my display, honey, even though it's a good thing for you at this time. I feel like, and I hope, because I can't decide for him, that it's a pit stop in an evolution to getting to the nice cream. But again, what if it's not? Is it my decision? Is it my why? Is it for me to tell him what to do? Is it going to work? No, none of it is. It might make me angry because if something happens to him, who's left to pick up the pieces, right? If he has a heart attack or dies early, or a stroke, or any of those horrific things that I hope never happen to him or anyone else, it's very personal, because now I have to deal with it. And here I am screaming at the top just to do this certain way, but I can't do it for him. And I don't. So let me just finish reading some more questions. Estelle Jacobs says she became a specialist in the disease because she had it in her 20s. Isn't that interesting? I love that a doctor who's experienced a health issue that they're specializing in because they have both sides, right? And Dr. McDougall, that we mentioned earlier, he had a stroke at age 18, and it changed the direction of the course of his life and his profession to becoming plant-based. And he, although just recently passed, lived an additional 60 years when they thought he wouldn't really live more than a couple years, with a stroke at age 18. Wow, right? And so, so let me just see what else is in here. Mona, I'm going to make Nutmeg Notebook's chocolate fudge ice creamy maybe next week. Ooh, and that's another one. Nutmeg Notebook, she does a lot of things. Chocolate fudge ice creamy is not really, it's plants. It's plants. And there's also Kathy Hester. She does, if you have that machine, the Ninja Creamy. Oh my gosh, you got to check out Kathy Hester's page. She does all kinds of amazing things. She teaches how to use the machine and make nice cream out of watermelon and all kinds of fresh fruits. And it's just like spooning and scooping real ice cream. I hope one day to get one of those machines and take her class. She's amazing. Please check her out. I'll actually link her in the description. So if you're interested and you haven't heard of her. And so we have a thank you. Oh, you would like me to show the nice cream? Okay. I think we have. Do we have a video on nice cream? We do with the we do. I think, is it out? There was one with making baked pears over nice cream, I think. So anyhow, we'll link one of those. You got a lot of work to do. I'm giving you all this stuff to link.
I love lives.
And okay, and so let me see what else here. Thank you, Jill. She said she needs to go. She has homework to do. I appreciate you being here. I appreciate your input. And yes, we are at the hour, so we're going to just wrap up here. Yes, Nutmeg Notebook is compliant, and compliant means whole food plant exclusive, whole food plant based. Yes, seeds and nuts and all of those things. And so I just want to ask if there are any other questions, any other comments before we wrap up. And while I'm waiting, and Jill said, thank you, Todd. I just want to mention that we are going to try to do this on a more regular basis. We're hoping to do Tuesdays at 2 Pacific Standard Time, although next week we will not be able to do a live, as we will both be traveling. So we'll hopefully pick it back up the following week. And I would love any comments after this goes live. For any suggestions on topics, I would love feedback to know if the time and day works, and just to kind of feel things out. And let's see, Natalie Dixon says, your recipe on sweet potato nice cream. Yes, we do have that one too. And Mona says, have a safe travel. I appreciate it so much. I have such gratitude for you guys. Thank you for being in our support system. Thank you for sharing your input. Thank you for caring enough to interact and for doing the best that you can. And know that we're here for those that are motivated and want to interact at any time. Please drop a comment. It doesn't have to be live for us to connect. And I'd love it if you give this a thumbs up as well. And please subscribe if you haven't, so then you can know when I go live. It will notify you if you hit the little bell. That's a notification bell. And so I'm just going to wrap up right now. Lori G said this was a good topic, really made me think. I'm so glad. Yeah, it's a topic that is really important to me as well. And Marilyn Dubin says, thank you. Thank you so much for all this information. You're welcome. Thank you for being here. And Natalie says, have a safe trip, both of you. Nan says, safe travels to both of you. Thank you, everybody. So grateful. Don't forget, eat your greens and give plants a chance. We'll see you next time. We love you all. Take care, everyone. Bye for now. Oh, where is the